like to make a call, please hang up and try again.
Chandler Halderson is accused of killing and dismembering his father Bart Halderson and his mother Christa Halderson. Chandler initially reported his parents missing, claiming they didn't return from a weekend trip. The remains of Chandler's father Bart were soon found, and the remains of his mother Christa were found a few days later in a different location. Prosecutors say Chandler killed his parents on July 1st, 2021, after his father discovered he'd been lying about attending college. The following presents the January 2022 trial.
John Nelson, John, John, Nelson, Nelson.
And how are you employed?
I'm employed with the Dane County Sheriff's Office.
As a deputy?
Correct.
What did you learn from Mr. Halderson on July 7th, 2021?
When he came to the precinct and spoke to me, he said that he wanted to make a missing persons report.
Okay, and what did he tell you?
He told me that he wanted to report that his parents were missing. I asked who his parents were. He said Bart and Christa Halderson. And I asked where they lived, and he said they lived on Oak Spring Circles, which is in the village of Windsor. He had said that his parents had gone up to their cabin, which I believe was in White Lake, Wisconsin, that they had left the previous week, he thought early Friday morning, and that he had not seen his parents since then, and that at this point he wanted to report them as a missing persons.
Did he give you any details about who, if anyone, they were with?
He had said that they had left with another couple, but he did not know who the couple was and had not seen the couple, just that they had left sometime early, what he believed to be early Friday morning.
How would you describe exhibit number 1?
This would be the residence that we went back to that we were told by Chandler was his home along with his parents.
In walking around the 2 upper levels, did anything seem off or obvious of a crime at that point?
Of a crime, no.
Okay.
We did contact our ISB, which is our detective division, as we felt that there was enough information now that there might be a reason to get detectives involved.
I am a detective with the Dane County Sheriff's Office.
How long have you been employed in that capacity?
I've been a detective for 14 years, usually in missing person cases. Obviously, the first couple of days, the first hours that we find out information is very vital in where our investigation goes. Sometimes time is of the essence when we're locating people, children and adults alike. Exhibit 40 is a USB drive, which includes media interviews.
And who is giving said media interviews?
Chandler Halderson.
And did you collect these from the various news stations in the course of your investigation?
Yes, we did.
Okay.
Thanks for staying with us. Officials are still searching for this couple, Bart and Christa Halderson. Now, there are a lot of questions about the Dane County couple's disappearance that we are working to get some answers to, but tonight, police aren't saying much. That led us to the couple's son, who says he's just as confused as investigators. Adam Duxter spoke with that man today. He's here now with what he learned. Adam?
Well, Erik, Chandler Halderson lives with his parents in the village of Windsor and says another unknown couple picked them up early Friday morning before he was awake. And tonight we're left to wonder what happened to Bart and Christa Halderson.
They were picked up by their friends, who I never got the name of, and I assumed it was someone I was aware of, the close neighbors of theirs up the street, or their best friends down on the east side.
And Chandler Halderson says for his parents to leave, even with another person, does happen from time to time. But he tells me another family member went to that cabin to check out cell service and was able to get through.
Well, hopefully we'll get some answers soon. Adam Duxter reporting.
At least you spoke with their son and people in the Haldersons' neighborhood.
Yeah, John, the Halderson's son says that he helped his parents pack up the night before their trip to their cabin in Langlade County. He hasn't seen them since.
I was told they'd be home Monday or Tuesday, and Tuesday afternoon I got a little worried.
Chandler Halderson says his parents, Christa and Bart, were getting picked up by friends that Friday. They were planning to be at the cabin over the 4th of July weekend.
Apparently they did make it. I got a text on Sunday.
Halderson says after that text, he began getting worried when his calls to his mom went directly to voicemail.
That's when I got worried and I went to make a report.
One of Halderson's biggest concerns, who his parents were with when they left.
they went with their friends. But I didn't ask who their friends were, so I'm still not really sure.
While law enforcement searches for answers, the community is hoping for the Haldersons' safe return.
Their plans were going up with their friends and do some minor repairs on our cabin.
That cabin is some 3 hours away from Windsor on a lake in a small community in Langlade County.
Did you literally see them pulling out of the driveway heading out?
No.
Their son, Chandler Halderson, who asked to be off camera, says whoever his parents were traveling with from this neighborhood were to do the driving. He says he received a text from his mother.
She got back to me on Sunday, said they made it safely.
That's the last he's heard from his parents.
On July 8th of 2021, did you answer the doorbell and correspond with a young man about camera systems?
Yes.
And that was captured by some Ring doorbell footage?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Chandler Halderson. I live just down the road.
Oh, yes.
You're the one with all of the police.
Yeah.
I was told you had the fancy security system. I was wondering if you were able to capture the road or my house.
The police actually came and downloaded everything they have. But it's actually my sister's house.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so they were here, I think till like 9 o'clock last night and downloaded all the video she's got. So we're hoping that...
Yeah, did it capture anything on...
We don't know. We don't know. They just took a copy of everything, and so we're hoping...
Winding the lens?
Yeah, and it's all...
Be able to get a
yeah, and it's all HD, and then I think there's one...
Especially in the dark, it looks like it has a little bit of night vision.
Yeah, and there's one on the corner of the garage, too. I don't know if that one quite goes that direction, but...
Maybe this road and take the road.
Yeah, so hopefully, I mean, we gave them everything that we had, so we're hoping they find something on there.
It's Brent Baverstock, B-R-E-N-T, B-A-V-E-R-S-T-O-C-K.
What do you do for a living, sir?
I'm a detective with the Dane County Sheriff's Office.
At some point, do you end up going to a farm that you thought might have been visited by Chandler Halderson over the 4th of July weekend and leading into the next week?
Yeah, based upon our interviews with them, we determined we needed to get out to that farm right away and search it.
Did you yourself at some point see some birds over the woods?
Yes.
And what were those birds?
Turkey vultures.
And did that raise red flags to you?
Oh, yeah.
Why?
You know, most birds really don't have a sense of smell except for turkey vultures. Turkey vultures actually, you know, when a body or an animal or a creature dies, starts going through some changes, the microorganisms on there start producing different gases and it emanates an odor. Turkey vultures can smell that. And when they do, they'll start circling the area to locate where it's coming from.
And were those turkey vultures over the wooded area at the farm?
When I got there, yeah. So there's the mowed section of the grass, which is just south of the barn. There's a stack of old logs sitting there, but to the right is where we could see what appeared to be 2 tire marks going into the deeper grass.
Did you follow those tire marks?
Yes, I did. More of the trampled grass that goes to this log that goes across. And then you can see they get the green moss on the log, but there's areas where the green moss had been scraped off as if something had scraped it off. You can see the pile of sticks there, and there's something underneath it. Couldn't quite tell what it was right away, so I stepped over the log and got a little bit of a closer look.
And what did you find?
I didn't know what it was at first.
What do you mean by that?
It took me a while to process what I was seeing. You know, then it became obvious that I was looking at a human torso.
A-L-L-E-N. How are you employed?
Directly in front.
I'm sorry, what?
How are you employed?
I'm a detective with the Dane County Sheriff's Office.
And were you employed in that capacity in July of 2021?
I was. When we got to the property, we noticed what appeared to be fresh tire tracks as the weeds were kind of pushed down. So we did the line search where the tire tracks ended. And then once they ended, we went into the wooded area. And that's where Detective Baverstock found the torso.
Could you show where that oil drum was on that date and where you observed these items?
So here's the oil drum, and Detective Baverstock and I were out on the property waiting for the cadaver dog, and while we were waiting, I noticed the triangle shape in the oil drum, and that's what prompted us to look inside of it.
And could you also point out where you observed those tire tracks?
Right here. Right beyond it.
That's again through the oil drum, and you can see the top of the bolt cutters, red handle, Craftsman brand.
And Exhibit 113.
That again is through the oil drum, a pair of scissors, a saw blade, and the handheld saw blade, or with the saw attached.
Yes, we received information that Chandler Halderson was observed out at the farm in Cottage Grove near a wooded area. I also had just received, prior to the third call, information that torso was located in the area that Chandler Halderson was last seen.
Approximately how long are we going to be watching this video, Detective, just to give everyone an idea of how long they're going to be moved?
I believe the interview was approximately 2 hours long.
I talked to you yesterday. So today is July 8th. It's about 5:11 now. We started talking at 5:08. So yesterday, July 7th, I came to your house where you live with your parents, Bart and Krista Halderson. And the reason I was there is you had gone to the Windsor Police Department and reported them missing, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I tossed the ball and I smashed the glass.
Okay.
With the dog's help. That set my dad off, and we tried to clean it up. Okay. I don't know about him, but I got injured. But he was mad. He didn't really talk to me too much that day. My mom got home at 5, I believe. And then the rest, he didn't really talk to me. I went back to doing like a job search, kind of just shitting my day away. Just getting games, YouTube maybe. That's when I came across one of the jobs I liked.
So Wednesday night, Mom comes home. Dad was angry. Was he yelling, or what was? How would you describe Dad being angry?
It was he would yell if you said something to him. I guess if you talk to him, if you give him his space, he'll be okay. That's where they told me while we were eating it, they were gonna go with their friends, and I was like, oh, cool.
And they said they were going to the cabin.
Yeah. Well, okay. We're going up north. That's how they refer to it.
Who said that, Mom or Dad?
Mom. My dad doesn't talk while he eats.
Okay.
So there we are at Thursday dinner. Friday morning, I woke up. They had left with the stuff was all set out. They remembered the gas. I found the folding chairs that they wanted to bring, but they never brought them throughout the weekend, I mean. But I called my mom, I believe, in the morning, there's along those lines, and I get a text from her. It was a text message, it wasn't even an iMessage, so I assumed. She said White Lake today. So she sent it that day. I couldn't figure out where she was because it was a text. There was no iMessage, so I kind of just like left it at that. They're safe. They're alive.
Is there any reason to believe mom or dad's blood would be somewhere in the house? Have they been injured at all that you're aware of?
Well, my dad scratches his psoriasis till he like gushes blood.
Okay. Gushing. Describe gushing to me.
Enough to run down your leg, like cover your leg, I suppose. Like he has it on his knee. My mom's blood, just from her bloody noses she gets sometimes when she wakes up. That's why we've been doing the humidifier and dehumidifiers.
So I think it's time we start talking about what happened to your parents, like the truthful version. Okay. So we have like 20 pages of writing. We're going to start with a clean white piece of paper for you to start telling the truth.
Okay. What?
Because listen to me. This is the only chance you're going to have to tell us the truth. Okay. What we listen. I can't tell you what we know, but we know you're not telling us the truth. We know your parents are no longer with us. Okay, and we know the reason why.
There's people that have told us things. We have evidence. We have proof that more has happened. Okay. So your parents never made it to the cabin, and I think you know that.
Make sure you don't have it. Okay.
Deputy Erik Schneider, ERIK,
As the deputy is opening this item of evidence, with regard to much of the physical evidence here, the parties have entered into a stipulation, which I'll read to you at this time. Once again, in this case, the district attorney and defendant's attorneys have stipulated to the following facts. Throughout the investigation into the deaths of Bart and Krista Halderson, many pieces of evidence were collected from the Halderson home, the Earlywine Road property, and the Roxbury, Wisconsin River land. These items of evidence were securely transported to various locations, including the medical examiner's office, the crime lab, to police evidence lockers, and ultimately to the courtroom. The parties stipulate these items have remained in secure custody since being collected by police and have not been tampered with or altered in any way outside of the testing performed by the experts involved in this case. Number one, the human remains located at Earlywine Road and in the town of Roxbury. Number two, all items collected from the Earlywine Road property. Number three, all items collected from the Halderson home in Windsor, Wisconsin. Number four, all items of evidence tested by the Wisconsin State Crime Lab for DNA, fingerprints, footwear impressions, ballistics, and trace fit testing. And finally, number five, all swabs of purported DNA and blood, including the DNA sample taken from Chandler Halderson.
147 is a silver gray colored tarp that was located, I believe the night of the 8th, when the first night we were at the property.
So that was the night that the torso was discovered?
Correct.
And is it fair to say this was found during like a cursory search of the barn?
Yes, while we were waiting for the search warrant to be finalized, we had the medical examiner's office out there, and the director, Ehrman, had his canine. So while we were waiting, we thought we would utilize the canine while we had it to see if it could find anything, and it led us directly to that tarp. Now just another closer view of the rifle. I just took overall and photographs and continuing all the way up to the rifle itself.
And what is picture 73 a picture of?
A close-up of the rifle, which shows the serial number on the upper portion.
And Deputy, could you just tell me what Exhibit 291 is?
This is that same black rifle we saw in the photographs.
That you collected at the Earlywine Road property hidden behind a board?
Correct. It is a Norinco SKS 76x39 caliber rifle.
And is it in the same or substantially same condition as when you collected it?
Yes, it is a red dot sight and a camouflage colored strap on it.
Deputy, did you attend the autopsy of Mr. Halderson's torso?
I did. Item 553 is a jacket and fragment that was retrieved from the rear neck area of the torso. And item 554 is additional fragments from a bullet retrieved from the abdomen.
And those were retrieved from the torso by the medical examiner during the autopsy?
Correct.
N-I-C-K-S-T-A-H-L-K-E.
How are you employed?
I'm a forensic scientist with the State Crime Laboratory in Madison, Wisconsin. I have a lot of different training sessions that I've attended over the 30-plus years that I've been a forensic scientist. A bloodstain pattern analysis, bullet trajectory, fracture match, or physical match, and all the other associated training that's required for the processing of crime scenes. I like to describe this house as a tri-level, but it actually has 3 levels above ground, 4th level being the basement.
Now, did you luminol the entire house?
No, we only luminoled those areas that of concern. And those areas were the basement, the foyer here. There's a bathroom then up on the top right corner of this photograph. We did that one as well, and then the garage. This then is the floor of the south side of the basement.
Slide 5.
Well, the slide just before this was a photograph of the floor with white light generated by the application of luminol, and then a small pop of light or flash so that we can get an idea of the relative positions of the items within the scene to the luminol itself. If we didn't do that, all you would see would be the luminescence of the luminol reacting to the presence of whatever it's reacting to.
And you said that the luminescence could be blood. Could it be something else?
Well, it does. Luminol does react with bleach or any other chemical that has some metals in it. Also, some plant materials will give some false positives.
So if somebody had cleaned the floor with bleach, that might also respond to your luminol.
It can, yes. Once we identify an area that is reacting, giving us a positive reaction to the application of luminol, we then swab it to get a sample, and then we test it again with phenolphthalein, which is a presumptive test for the presence of blood. In slide 19, these had some visible stains. And the ones that are already marked were ones that Deputy Leatherberry had visibly seen and marked with these labels, adhesive labels.
And slide 20.
20 is an image taken after the application of luminol. You can see there that there's many more stains that are visible now due to the application of the luminol. These stains are very similar in characteristic size and shape as this visible stains that you could see and that were already marked.
Are you able to say anything about the pattern of or splatter of these stains?
These look like stains that were drip utilized in, or that are produced from gravity alone acting upon the bloody source with the blood dripping straight to the floor. There were a couple of stains that you can see some movement toward the bottom right that are somewhat smeared. These could be consistent with swipes or wipes.
And if blood was cleaned up with hydrogen peroxide, would you be able to find any traces of it?
Well, with luminol, because hydrogen peroxide is part of the formula of the luminol itself, it would not give a reaction. It would indicate that cleanup had occurred. It would be, but however, the hypochlorite or bleach does give a positive, negative positive, false positive for luminol.
Last name is Boswell, B-O-S as in Sam, W-E-L-L.
And what do you do for a living, sir?
I'm a special agent with the State of Wisconsin Department of Justice.
Any particular area of expertise?
Yes, within a division of criminal investigation, I'm assigned to the Arson Bureau. This is the fireplace that I was asked to come and examine. There is a discoloration or a change in coloration, if you will, on the fireplace grate from left to right. And as we got in a little bit further and began to examine things a little more closely, there was almost like a greasy residue on the pull chain on the right-hand side, which controls the fireplace damper at the top of the chimney. What you would find in most solid fuel-burning fireplaces or furnaces, you would find a trap door, if you will, or an ash dump door. It's a flat metal door that rotates on a central pin left or right, and in a fireplace that burns wood, to get rid of the ash, you would, to keep your fireplace clean, you would open that up, sweep the ash down in, and it would go into some type of container or area where the ash would be secured until you cleaned it out.
Was there any sort of scent that made any, that gave you any impression or that raised your attention at all?
Yes, there was. We rely very much on our senses sometimes to get us there. Sometimes it's a sense of sight. Sometimes it is feel. You can sometimes walk over top of human remains that are beneath ash and not know it until you feel a difference in what you're standing on. And sometimes it is smell. And I equate that smell very often because I love to barbecue. It smells like barbecued pork oftentimes, or the grease that you would get from barbecuing a pork shoulder. And this is the smell that I associated with what I was gathering from inside that fireplace when I was down in front of it and working near it. But in looking at the burned piece of wood in the center and the white item that is present there at about the 6 o'clock position, before we moved this out of the fireplace, we took a look at it with some better lighting, and based on my training experience, that appeared to be bone. Okay. Burned bone.
At points during your investigation, did it appear necessary to you to call out a forensic anthropologist who specialized in bone?
Absolutely.
And was one brought to the scene, in fact, a doctor?
Yes.
And who was that doctor?
Dr. Christina Figueroa-Soto.
What is this?
Those are additional, what appeared to be bone fragments that were around the area where the larger piece was that you saw in the prior exhibit.
D''A''G''O''S''T''I''N''I.
And how are you employed, sir?
How am I employed?
Yeah.
Currently, I actually just accepted a job at Target, but I was previously employed with Fleet Farm.
In what role?
Loss prevention team lead.
July 2nd, in kind of early in the morning, around 7:20 or so?
Yes, I was.
And did you provide the police a copy of that video ultimately?
I did.
What are we looking at there?
This is again up at the front entrance, and that would be lane 1 is the closest checkout lane there.
And do you recognize that item that the person in that video is purchasing?
Yes, I do.
And what is that?
It's a black and silver tarp.
And are you able to tell what the subject in that transaction purchased?
Yes, it is. It's a 6x8 silver black heavy duty poly tarp.
And is there a date and time that this was all done at?
Yes, July 2nd, 2021 at 7:21 a.m.
And a bit farther down, there's the item description of a 6x8 silver black heavy duty poly tarp. You testified that 410, that's the packaging of that tarp that was purchased?
Yes, it is.
And 411, the tarp?
Yes.
My first name is Cori, C-O-R-I. My last name is Breslauer, B-R-E-S-L-A-U-E-R.
What do you do for a living?
I'm the Deputy Medical Examiner at the Dane County Medical Examiner's Office.
And that means you're an MD?
That is correct.
And what is pathology?
Pathology is a study of medicine that basically covers the effects of injury and disease on the body.
And does that presentation, for the most part, it is just photos of the autopsy that you performed in this case?
That is correct.
We will advise you that observing these images is an important role as a juror, but studying these images is up to you personally as to the necessity that you feel to do so during the course of the testimony.
Medical examiners goes to scenes because there is information that we can gather, circumstantial information based off of the position of the body, the environment that the body is found, and because my specialty is assessing the circumstances and the injuries that are found on the body, I'm able to assimilate all of that information. So the body was underneath a considerable amount of brush and debris, and the layers of that brush and debris were removed, again, at my direction, and we then assessed the body as it was in its position.
And back at your office, what, if any, sort of examination do you perform?
So back at the office, we have the resources, the lighting, and the tools available to perform a complete examination on the body, on the outside and the inside.
And who was this torso? Who did you identify as it belonging to? Or as it being?
Right, so we often evaluate bodies that come in without an identity, and so often they will come with a presumed identity. In this case, we were told that the presumed identity of the body was Bart Halderson. We received imaging x-rays of Bart Halderson that were taken while he was alive, and we then compared those to the x-rays that we took of the body that we had in our office, and I found multiple points of concordance that identified this body scientifically as Bart Halderson.
And there's two circles on the right-hand side of this slide or this photo. What are those circles highlighting?
The circles on the right are highlighting the severed femurs of the body. Basically, the body was dismembered with the lower limbs removed, and the circles show the terminal ends of the femur bones.
And then there's a circle on the left side. What is the circle on the left side of page 2 highlighting?
The circle on the left side of page 2 shows a gunshot wound.
And do you know yet in this part of your autopsy if that's an entrance wound or an exit wound?
Yes, this is an exit wound.
An exit wound?
Yes.
All right. So, and we'll get more into that. Does that mean, though, that for lack of a better term, Mr. Halderson was shot in the back?
That is correct. Yes, so the circles on the top and the bottom highlight the severed upper extremities and the terminal ends of the humeral bones. The circle on the left in the middle, in between those two, shows the neck or the base of the neck where the head has been severed. Correct, we discussed 2 gunshot wounds, and then this is a third.
Doctor, obviously the legs, the arms, and the head were removed from this torso. Is there any can you make any determination whether that disfigurement or dismemberment occurred before or after Mr. Halderson, Bart Halderson, died?
So one thing that helps us determine whether or not an injury occurred before or after death is the presence or absence of a vital reaction or hemorrhage. So we've been talking about me finding hemorrhage in areas of injury. In the areas where the gunshot entrances were, there was hemorrhage around it, indicating that the heart was beating when the individual was shot. Where I recovered bullet fragments, there was hemorrhage or vital reaction surrounding that area. However, in the areas surrounding the dismembered limbs, or the head, the upper extremities, and the lower extremities, there were injuries, but I did not appreciate this vital reaction. I did not appreciate hemorrhage in the same way that I appreciated around the other injuries.
So the mutilation occurred after death?
That is correct.
Denise Jones, Denisejones.
And what do you do for a living?
I'm a senior forensic scientist in the DNA analysis unit at the Wisconsin State Crime Laboratory in Madison.
How long have you been employed by the Wisconsin State Crime Lab?
14 and a half years.
I'll ask you a couple of questions. What was your conclusion related to the swabbing of the staining on that saw, and I think it's been testified, purportedly recovered at the Irwin Road property?
It was a single source male profile.
And who was that profile?
Bart Halderson.
You were able to find some comparisons, however, with other areas of that same tarp?
Yes.
Okay. And so now we're looking at your testing done on item C2F1, which we talk about the tarp, talking about the one in the garbage can, right?
Yes.
Okay. And what conclusions did you reach regarding that staining?
I detected a single source female profile, and Krista Halderson was the source of that profile.
Talking about living room fireplace, item O. And what were you able to determine based on the swabbing from item O?
I detected a partial low-level 3-person mixture in at least one male. Bart Halderson had very strong support for inclusion. It was at least 1 quadrillion times more likely to observe this DNA profile if it was a mixture from Bart Halderson and 2 unknown individuals, or H1, than if it was a mixture resulting from 3 unknown individuals, or H2. Krista Halderson had strong support for inclusion. It was at least 10,000 times more likely to observe this DNA profile if it was a mixture resulting from H1 than if it was a mixture resulting from H2. Mitchell Halderson was uninformative, and it was 2,940 times more likely to observe this DNA profile if it was a mixture from Chandler Halderson and 2 unknown individuals than if it was a mixture resulting from 3 unknown individuals, which is a moderate support for inclusion.
Why would one swab the inside of the shoes?
You might want to know who was wearing them.
Okay. Here we're looking at the left Brooks shoe in that bag that's in front of you. We don't have to do anything with it right now. It's there. You reach some results, and that is uninformative for Bart, very strong support for inclusion for Krista, and uninformative for Mitchell, but very strong support for Chandler.
Yes.
Your conclusions there for the staining on the bottom of the shoes. Bart Halderson, strong support for inclusion?
Yes.
Krista Halderson, very strong support for inclusion?
Yes.
Mitchell Halderson, moderate support for exclusion?
Yes.
And Chandler Halderson, moderate support for inclusion?
Yes.
Okay. Was that the stain that you previously testified was blood?
Yes.
In your work, are you able to tell particularly how DNA, when you find no DNA, are you able to say why or why not it wasn't there?
No.
It could be wiped off?
Yes.
And it could be cleaning products?
Yes.
Or it could have never been there in the first place?
Correct.
Okay. You are a scientist and your results are limited to those reports?
Yes.
My name is Agnieszka Rogalska.
How are you employed?
I am the Chief Medical Examiner of Dane County.
And did you write a report in the case of Krista Halderson?
I did. Underneath the tree on the left side of the photograph, you can see this is where we'll find the remains of the left thigh, a left foot, and a right leg. And identified in the blue circle under a smaller bush a little further away is the left knee, identified here as the left leg.
In your identification, you have left thigh, comma, left foot, comma, right leg. Was the thigh dismembered from the foot, or the foot dismembered from the thigh?
Yes, what ultimately I believe to be the left thigh that joins that, the left knee that joins the left thigh and that left leg was identified in the area here circled in blue. So the right leg is intact from the thigh down. The left leg was fragmented. A portion was found in one area, the knee, the thigh, and the foot were found with the right leg.
And at some point, are these remains collected and taken back to your offices?
Yes, they are.
How are those remains collected?
We collected them in separate body bags just to keep the fragments separated until we can officially identify them. And just by looking at them with the naked eye like this, you can't really tell if they're from the same person.
How did you come to identify that these legs belong to Krista Halderson?
We collected DNA samples from the fragments of tissue. The tissue from the left knee that was pink was still viable for DNA analysis. And the crime laboratory made a comparison and identified the remains as that of Krista R. Halderson.
Figueroa, Figueroa, Soto, Soto.
And what do you do for a living, doctor?
I work for the Dane County Medical Examiner as their forensic anthropologist and chief of investigations.
Just to clarify, those are in fact Mr. Halderson's bones we're looking at?
Yes. I'm doing an anthropological tool mark analysis. I'm trying to focus on several things. One of them is false starts, also the distance between the teeth of whatever tool we're using, and then also the direction of blade, a direction of progress of the blade, and also of the cutting stroke. This false start was actually very informative. Remember when I mentioned the deeper the false start, the better? So this one was quite deep. So I was able to measure, and then it gave me a lot of information. It gave me information about pretty much the width of the blade, which was 0.04, and also told me that there was a little bit of information about there was a wavy set blade. That is usually related to fine-tooth hacksaw blades.
Were you made aware at some point that there were some tools or saws found near the remains that were suspected to have been used in the dismemberment?
I was made aware.
And you were provided information regarding those tools?
Yes, they were providing me with some photos. The class characteristics that I saw on the elements or on the skeletal elements are consistent with the class characteristic of those two tools that were found at the site. They were able to identify one set of human remains as Krista Halderson via DNA. The other set of remains, the tissue was quite mummified, so we were not able to really obtain DNA out of that second set of remains.
There's a spot on the top of the fireplace, kind of there in the center, that was of interest to people?
Yes, that is the reason why I was called in the first place. In addition to that, I had 124 fragments that I know they're bone, but I was unable to identify them. So we had a grand total of 230 bones, fragmented bones that were found, again, inside the fireplace, on the grate, and also on the ash disposal area.
Okay, and your last name, Smith, common spelling?
Sierra, Mike, India, Tango, Hotel.
And how old are you, sir?
22, sir.
How did you meet Chandler Halderson?
Playing video games while I was stationed in Germany, sir.
Was he just in one of these games and you talked to him?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did you talk to him a lot?
Yes, sir.
Did you develop a friendship?
Yes, sir.
When you visited Wisconsin to see Chandler, you brought him a gift.
Yes, sir.
What did you bring him?
I brought him a 20-inch barrel SKS.
Okay. How did you acquire this gun?
So I had purchased it on a gun broker, and I went and had it sent to my FL, and then I went and sat in the FL until I went and did the FL transfer. So I purchased it initially because I was like, oh, well, I like it in the video game, I might like it in real life, and then I fired it, it sat in my safe, and then I never touched it again, and then it just dawned on me like, well, I'm gonna give it to someone who might actually appreciate this weapon and take care of it and all that, so I ended up giving it to Chandler as a gift. Okay. I took his photo ID that the state issued him, and I took it right next to the serial number, annotating that this was me giving this weapon to this individual, so that way, if anything like this would occur, that it wouldn't necessarily come back to me.
The police, in fact, visited you down in where you live at some point.
Yes, sir.
Why was that important to you to assist?
Well, to put it bluntly, sir, I served in the Army, and I'm not going to get fucked for something that I didn't do.
Matson.
And where are you employed?
The Wisconsin Department of Justice Crime Lab in Madison.
And what is your position at the crime lab?
I am an advanced latent print and footwear examiner. Everybody has those types of features within their friction-rich skin, but where they are in relationship to each other is what makes them more different and unique to each individual.
Individuals, all of us have unique fingerprints.
Correct.
Were you able to draw a conclusion then from the print that you were recovered on the tarp that's in the garbage can, item C2A, and then the piece of duct tape, which is FRD1, to the left ring finger of Mr. Chandler Halderson? Were you able to draw any conclusions?
Yes, I identified the left ring finger of Chandler Halderson to that impression from friction ridge detail.
You were one of the detectives in charge of warrants and subpoenas for documents and business records.
Yes.
Let's move to alyssabrant64@gmail.com. What is the IP address?
69.130.255.56.
So again, the Bart Halderson internet account.
Yes.
So that email was created connected to that Wi-Fi.
Yes.
And what date of birth was listed?
March 15th of 1998.
Chandler Halderson's birthday.
Yes.
All right, what about chandlerhalderson@gmail.com? Again, the Halderson address is Wi-Fi.
Yes.
And what was the recovery phone number for the Chandler Halderson Gmail?
920-838-4549.
And the date of birth listed.
March 15th of 1998.
What is the recovery phone number for speakdaniel@gmail.com?
920-838-4549.
So Chandler Halderson's phone number is the phone number for the recovery.
Yes.
And what is the date of birth listed for speakdaniel@gmail.com?
March 15th of 1998.
Chandler Halderson's birthday?
Yes.
Specifically, I'm going to talk to you today about 4 different email accounts. Chandler Halderson at gmail.com, SpiethDaniel@gmail.com, AlyssaBrant64 @gmail.com, and Aaron Hoover @gmail.com. Were there ever any emails to or from anyone at American Family Insurance indicating that Mr. Halderson worked there in any capacity?
Specifically American Family, no.
When it comes to the company SpaceX, were there ever any emails regarding a job application or employments with SpaceX?
No. Did you email HR to inquire about your paycheck? Unless there is something that you are not telling us, they have had ample time to pay you. Bart Halderson.
And that was from Bart to Chandler.
The subject is progress update. Daniel, will you please provide me a summary of where you are resolving the open items for Chandler? New account is active. Registered in the IT degree program. Able to sign up for spring semester classes. Transcripts can be generated and picked up. Solar certificate has been signed and will be sent. National database has been updated for financial aid. Thank you, Bart Halderson. Good morning, Mr. Spieth. Could you please send my transcripts to my home address? There is a program with my insurance to help save me money with a good GPA.
Was the phone number, the backup recovery phone number used to create this Daniel Spieth email, was that Chandler Halderson's cell phone?
Yes, it was.
And was the birthday that was used when he created that Daniel Spieth Google account, was that Chandler Halderson's birthday?
Yes, it is. As you might be aware, this is causing issues with financial aid and insurance, but also giving me other concerns. Thank you for your prompt attention to this matter, as we have been trying to resolve this for countless months, and my employers need my transcripts ASAP. Thank you, Chandler.
June 1st, 2021, Alyssa Brandt to Chandler Halderson, same subject line. What does she say here?
I won't be able to access your transcripts or get this certification degree without the key to the records room. I'll let you know when it arrives.
Email from Bart Halderson to Alyssa Brandt 64, responding, or it was a forward to schedule changes. The forward that appears in the subject matter indicates that at some point that email was forwarded?
That's correct.
Okay, and what does the email body read?
Alyssa, this is unacceptable. We have been dealing with this issue for well over a year now. It has been costing us money the longer the delays have continued. I'm not sure of the professionalism of the advisors, but it sure seems like they will take off at the drop of a hat and it messes up the whole schedule. Chandler and I have both rearranged our schedules to meet with an advisor today, and I expect you to find a way to make that happen.
Is the IP address that account was created at, AlyssaBrant64 @gmail.com, is that the Halderson home's IP address?
Yes, it is.
And the birth date used when that account was created, is that Chandler Halderson's birthday?
Yes, it is.
Omar, Jobe.
And sir, what do you do for a living?
I work as an enrollment coordinator at Madison College.
Does that appear to be the call that you had with this person regarding someone named Chandler Halderson?
Yes.
Enrollment Services, this is Omar. How may I help you?
Can you make sure the volume's up on your end?
Hi. I'm trying to get an appointment scheduled to meet with somebody to maybe just get a copy of the transcript and also a printed copy of a certificate that was earned and other degree verification. How do I get that done? Okay, what's your first name? Chandler, Chandler. Last name is Hald as in David, Erson. Date of birth is March 15th, 1998. Okay, so it looks like you owe a balance. You owe a balance of $2,349. If you've earned a certificate, say in that solar program, you said where does that get requested to? If you earned a certificate? Yeah. I don't see that you earned a certificate. I don't see that you were in a program. Yeah, but I don't see that you were admitted. I'm having a hard time hearing you. Said I don't see that you were admitted in any program.
RIPP.
And what do you do for a living?
I am a criminal analyst for the Wisconsin Department of Justice. I take in copies of original records and make them into visual displays. So here we can see a little bit closer up view of Chandler's location records, whether they're the Snapchat, which you can see a little bit clearer as the small circles, and the green sectors. This is BART.
All right. And what's notable about this slide, or what can you tell us?
So as it was summarized on the first slide that I read over, there is no cellular activity related to this phone number or this device after 2:32 p.m.
Despite the phone being used, you're not able to tell in your work who was using the phone after 5 p.m. that night?
That is correct.
Here you've put an additional label on. So we have Bart and Krista's residence labeled, and then there's another label by Prairie du Sac. What does that say?
It says remains found approximate.
And was that the location given to you by detectives?
It was.
Okay.
And those are an approximate distance that was provided by the cell phone company.
And is that what we're looking at in this slide?
It is.
And if we look at the very bottom of the screen, is that the location where you've been indicated by detectives to place the remains found?
It is. Krista's particular tower usage was inclusive of some data session records that occurred from 11:02 to 11:04 a.m. And this is also where there was an outgoing message to Chandler's device at 11:04:23.
And was that the message listed there? Made it safely, can't get anything through though, and yes, it's packed. Going to White Lake today for the parade, and be home Monday night, Tuesday early. Love you lots.
That is correct. Okay. So July 5th shows the device activity for Chandler's phone. It appears that it was pretty consistent at the residence throughout the day until about 4:30 p.m. and heads out to the Irwin Farm address until about 6:54. Then it heads back to the Madison area where it stays.
Bart and Krista, their phone's not active this day at all?
That is correct.
Going back, because again, we're staying on July 5th. In the bottom right corner of this overall map of Mr. Halderson's locations on July 5th, there's a square. Is that around the Irwin Road property?
It is.
And were you able to look at that a little bit closer for a trip out there in the afternoon and into the evening of July 5th?
I was.
Tell me what we're looking at there.
So this, again, is just showing up a closer satellite view, so it adds more context to where the locations are. You can see that there are several locations associated with the circle to the south on the map. Several of them are kind of stacked up in between each other with varying levels of degree of accuracy associated with them. And it takes
part in kind of a small time frame, within a matter of 8 seconds. And then there's one location that's captured on the driveway or just around that area near the driveway at 6:08 p.m.
Do you know, so we talked about cell phone records are constantly maybe reaching out and talking to the phones. Is Snapchat doing the same, or is this when people affirmatively use the app, or do you know?
It's when they're using the app.
Okay. So if Mr. Halderson's Snapchat the app would not have been opened on July 5th, we wouldn't just see these naturally as some sort of handshakes that the system is performing.
Correct. So these records are showing us the movement of the device down out to the Irwin farm. Again, this time it occurs between 9:30 a.m. and 11 o'clock a.m. Then the device seems to remain consistently at the residence throughout the evening.
Moving to July 8th, 2021, the last day that we're going to talk about. Just what are we looking at there?
This shows the device activity related to Chandler's device, and it remains consistently at the residence up until about 4:15 p.m. There are no records between 4:15 and 7:55 p.m., but then you see the next data session towers that are utilized are down in the Madison area.
And in fact, that tower might be close to where we are right now.
Quite likely.
Okay. In the vicinity of the Dane County Jail.
Yes.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Chandler M. Halderson, guilty of first-degree intentional homicide as to Bart A. Halderson, guilty of providing false information about a missing person, guilty of mutilating a corpse. We, the jury, find the defendant, Chandler M. Halderson, guilty of hiding a corpse as to Bart A. Halderson as charged in count 4. We, the jury, find the defendant, Chandler M. Halderson, guilty of first-degree intentional homicide as to Krista R. Halderson, guilty of providing false information about a missing person, guilty of mutilating a corpse. We, the jury, find the defendant, Chandler M. Halderson, guilty of hiding a corpse as to Krista R. Halderson, as charged in count 8 of the amended information.
Your Honor, I want to take this opportunity to state my intent to appeal my convictions. If there are any lawyers listening and willing to take on my appeal, take a moment to please reach out to me. It's not that I do not have feelings. It's that I was warned to not show them due to the scrutiny of this case. Thank you.
And so on counts 1 and 5, per statute, I sentence him to life in prison, and pursuant to section 973.014, sub 1G3, I find that he is not to be eligible for extended supervision during that course. The sentences on the other counts, given 2 life sentences, become rather superfluous, to say the least, but at the same time, I absolutely acknowledge that we may be in a completely different position here had he committed the acts of homicide, but then stopped and took other steps to accept responsibility and sought forgiveness of everyone. Because what happens with a weapon in a moment of panic is different than what happened over those 48 to 72 hours. The events of which I don't wish to think of or consider once again, having listened to the evidence and observed the testimony and the physical evidence. So to make this quite simple, I will impose maximum terms concurrent to each other and concurrent to counts 1 and 5 on each of the other counts within the information of which the verdict convicted Mr. Halderson. I do believe that by imposing the maximum, I'm recognizing the severity of those individual acts, but there is a life sentence here, so making them consecutive does not undermine the gravity of that, given the maximum penalty involved.